She'd figured it was just another shift, another night of pouring wine for rich, entitled strangers. But the instant her phone rang and she answered in perfect Italian, every single conversation in that private room died down. The man at the head of the table wasn't just watching her. He was calculating something. Hours crawled by, and as she finally tried to leave, his order cut through the restaurant air like a knife. Don't let her go. Bellissimo was the kind of place where silence was a commodity. Crystal glasses glittered on the tables, and chandeliers hung above like ornate cages of light. Every server moved with the kind of precision that suggested one wrong step could shatter the whole carefully constructed night. Sophia James, 26, tied on her apron and slipped into the practiced rhythm of another double shift. She was practically invisible here, just the quiet black waitress who only spoke when spoken to, who carried trays with a steadiness that outshone everyone else. That was how she liked it. Invisible meant safe. The manager snapped his fingers impatiently near the espresso machine. Table 7, he hissed, his eyes sharp. Everyone knew what that meant. The men from upstairs, the ones with the bespoke suits, the heavy watches, and the kind of silence that discouraged questions. Nobody said the word Mafia, but they didn't need to. Sophia adjusted her collar and pushed through the heavy velvet curtain into the private dining room. The air itself seemed to change, thicker, slower. A dozen men sat around the table, their laughter a low rumble, Italian words flowing between them like music played underwater. At the head of the table sat Dante Ricci, broad-shouldered and somewhere in his mid-40s, radiating the kind of calm that made everyone else seem smaller. He didn't even glance up when she poured the wine, and that was just fine with her. Plates arrived, orders were whispered, and Sophia started to fade back toward the door. That's when her phone buzzed. A mistake. She shouldn't have brought it. But her mother was sick, and calls from the clinic couldn't wait. She glanced at the screen. Mama Napolii. She hesitated, then answered softly, almost under her breath. Pronto stenor. The words slipped out smooth, fluent, native. The room went completely still. Forks stopped in mid-air. One of the men leaned toward another, murmuring, "She's Italian." Another smirked. "Not from around here, that's for sure." Sophia realized too late that every single eye in the room had turned her way. Her pulse hammered. She ended the call quickly. "Mi scusi. Sorry, my mother." Dante finally looked up, just for a heartbeat. Nothing moved. Then he raised his glass slightly, studying her as if she were a painting he didn't quite remember commissioning. "Where did you learn to speak like that?" he asked. Sophia froze. "It's my first language. Naples. I was born there. Moved when I was 8. He nodded once, a motion too precise to mean nothing. "Interesting." Someone laughed quietly, breaking the tension, but not for her. Dante's lieutenant whispered something in his ear. He shook his head, his eyes never leaving Sophia. "Finish their table." The manager hissed behind her, pretending not to tremble. Sophia obeyed, trying to ignore the weight of that stare. But even as she left the room, she could feel it following her, like a shadow stitched to her name. An hour later, while the other staff wiped down counters and polished glasses, the manager found her by the lockers. His voice cracked halfway through her name. "The boss wants a word before you leave." She blinked. "About what?" He swallowed. "About that phone call." Her throat went dry. "Where?" He pointed toward the corridor behind the wine cellar, the one nobody used after hours. The door stood half open, warm light spilling across the marble floor. Sophia set her tray down, smoothed her apron, and walked toward it. Each step sounded louder than the last. Behind that door waited the man whose words had frozen a room and the voice that would change her life. "Close the door, Miss James. Let's talk about Italy." The cellar office was warmer than the restaurant floor, filled with dim amber light and the scent of aged wine and leather. A single chair sat waiting across from the desk. "Sit," Dante said without looking up. Sophia obeyed. Her hands were steady, but her pulse wasn't. He finished writing something on a notepad before finally meeting her eyes. "You speak Italian like someone born to it," he said. "I was," she answered quietly. Yet you serve wine for men who barely know how to drink it. She swallowed. It's work. Everything is work, he said. The question is, for whom? He poured a small glass from a decanter, untouched. Tell me something, Miss James. Why did you leave Naples? Family moved. My mother got sick. And your father? Gone. He nodded slowly, as if each word confirmed something he already knew. Your mother's still alive. She is. Good, he murmured. Then let's keep it that way. The silence stretched. Then he spoke softly. Do you know what happens when someone like you walks into my world by accident? She didn't answer. He smiled faintly. You get a choice, one you probably didn't have before. He slid a manila folder across the desk. Inside, a single sheet of paper, an airline ticket to Florence, leaving in 48 hours, and beneath it, an envelope sealed with wax. She stared. What is this? A job, he said. Temporary interpreter. I'm not qualified. You are fluent, discreet, and invisible. Those are the only qualifications that matter. Her laugh was soft, nervous. And if I say no, you won't. The way he said it wasn't arrogant. It was certain, like a weather forecast. Sophia pushed the folder back toward him. I don't work for men like you. He smiled. You already did tonight. The air between them thickened. I'm not asking for loyalty, he said. Just competence. I need someone who understands tone and silence. Can you do that? I'm a waitress, she said. He leaned forward slightly. No, you're someone who listened when everyone else talked. That's rarer than loyalty. The words landed heavier than she expected. She felt something pull inside her chest. Fear, maybe curiosity, maybe both. Think about it, he said. There's a car outside. It will take you home. Don't worry about your shift tomorrow. Her breath hitched. You already spoke to my manager? He nodded. And your landlord? Her heart stuttered. How? He shrugged lightly. Information travels when people listen. She stood slowly, clutching her coat. Why me? For the same reason I told my men not to let you leave, he said. You made the room quiet. Sophia turned toward the door, her pulse thrumming behind her ribs. Halfway out, his voice stopped her. One more thing, he said. Your mother's clinic in Naples. Tell them to check her messages. She froze. What did you do? He looked back down at his papers. Nothing yet, but I like to invest early. Her throat tightened. You're trying to buy me. He chuckled quietly. If I wanted to buy you, Miss James, you'd already have a price. The room seemed smaller now, the air thick as honey. She left without another word, closing the door softly behind her. Outside, the corridor felt colder, emptier. Her phone buzzed as she reached the exit. Unknown number. One line of text. Midnight pickup. Don't pack heavy. She stared at it until the screen dimmed. Her own reflection looking back. Uncertain. Trapped. Alive. At that moment, she realized what Dante meant by choice, because it wasn't one. The message stayed on her screen until midnight came and went. Outside, rain began in thin, nervous streaks against her window. She told herself she wouldn't go. She said it out loud twice just to hear something human. Then headlights cut through the blinds. A black car idled by the curb. No horn, no text, just waiting. Her phone buzzed again. Downstairs. Sophia hesitated only long enough to grab her jacket. Fear has a strange gravity. It pulls you toward what you should avoid. The elevator ride felt endless. When the doors opened, a man in a dark coat was already there, his expression unreadable. Miss James, he said, opening the back door. Inside. Leather seats, a faint scent of tobacco. The city blurred by wet streets, empty cafes, traffic lights stretching into colorless lines. Nobody spoke until the skyline disappeared behind industrial fences and runway lights. A private airport, a private jet. Dante Ritchie waiting at the foot of the stairs, his coat collar turned up against the rain. You came, he said simply. I didn't say yes. You didn't have to. She paused halfway up the stairs. If I refused? He smiled. Then this would be a conversation about your mother's clinic. Her jaw tightened. So this is blackmail. He tilted his head. Call it persuasion. Inside the jet it was warm and quiet. One attendant. No insignia. No chatter. Dante sat opposite her. A file folder open on the table between them. Her name, address, even the hospital's invoice tucked neatly inside. How long have you been watching me? Since the moment you answered in Italian, he said. I value instinct. You didn't panic. You adapted. She crossed her arms. That doesn't make me loyal. No, he said. But it makes you useful. The engines hummed louder. The runway lights flickered away beneath them. The ground vanished. Sophia pressed her palms together, forcing herself to stay calm. Where are we going exactly? Florence first, he said. Then maybe somewhere that doesn't exist on maps. Why me? Because translators don't just hear words. They read intentions. I have associates who need that clarity. She exhaled slowly. You could hire anyone. I don't hire. I choose. He leaned back, his eyes still fixed on her. You think I'm dangerous? He said. I think you like control. He nodded as if she'd given him a compliment. Control keeps people alive. Silence stretched, filled only by the hum of altitude. She looked out the window, clouds swallowing the moonlight, the ocean a black mirror below. When she turned back, he was studying her phone. How did you unlock it? You should be more careful. He typed something quickly, then slid it back to her. Your mother's next procedure is covered, he said. I don't forget what matters. Sophia felt anger rise, sharp and hot. You think generosity cancels coercion? No, he said softly. It just changes the math. The plane dipped slightly. Turbulence or intent? She couldn't tell. He poured 2 glasses of wine and pushed one toward her. 2 choices, he said. I didn't make one. Exactly, he replied. That's why you're still alive. She didn't drink. When the seatbelt light blinked on, he closed the folder, as calm as ever. Sleep, he said. Tomorrow you'll need it. For what? He smiled. For deciding what kind of prisoner you'll be. Her stomach dropped as the plane broke through the last of the clouds, revealing the faint shimmer of Italy below. She didn't know whether it was beauty or warning. Through the headset, the pilot's voice came softly. Welcome to Florence, Signorina. Your villa is ready. Dante looked at her. So are you. The villa rose from the hills like something the earth had been forced to give up. Dawn painted its walls in pale gold, olive trees whispering in the cold Tuscan wind. From the car window, Sophia watched the gates open, wrought iron, black, heavy, and felt the world she knew close behind them. 2 men in suits escorted her through marble halls. Every surface gleamed. Every sound was measured. The air smelled of cedar, coffee, and something faintly electric. Surveillance, invisible but constant. Your room, one of the guards said, opening a door at the end of a long corridor. Inside, sunlight, a balcony overlooking vineyards, a wardrobe already filled with clothes her size, perfume she'd never worn, a phone on the desk, new, untraceable. Breakfast in 30, he added. Mr. Raichi prefers punctuality. When the door closed, she exhaled for the first time in hours. No locks, no visible chains, but she knew enough to recognize captivity when it smelled like luxury. She turned on the phone. 1 contact. Doctor, no internet, no signal, only 1 line of communication. The man who'd brought her here. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Maria, the housemaid, older, with kind eyes shadowed by caution, stepped in. Eat, she said softly, setting down a tray of fruit and espresso. You'll need strength. Sophia studied her. How long have you worked here? Long enough to know not to ask why you're here, Maria said. Then, after a pause, long enough to know that some doors in this house don't open from the inside. The words lingered long after Maria left. By the time she stepped into the dining hall, Dante was already there, his suit immaculate, his coffee untouched. He didn't rise when she entered, just gestured to the chair opposite him. Sleep well. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to. You were safe, he said. If that's what you're asking. She gave a hollow laugh. Safe isn't the word I'd use. Then what word fits? Owned. He looked at her for a long moment, then smiled, not with warmth, but with interest. Ownership implies resistance. Do you plan to resist me, Miss James? Sophia met his eyes. If I say yes, then I'll have to remind you who brought you here alive. The conversation dropped like a blade. She shifted her tone. You said you needed an interpreter. For what exactly? He stirred his coffee, watching the slow swirl of black and gold. A meeting tonight, he said. Old friends, new problems. They trust words more than guns. And me. They don't know you exist yet. He stood, smoothing his jacket. Your job is to listen. Correct their translation when I ask. Nothing else. And if I refuse? Then the doctors in Naples will start asking why your mother's bill was reversed. Her jaw clenched. You think threats make loyalty? No, he said softly, stepping closer. Fear does, and loyalty grows best in its shadow. He walked away, leaving her with the echo of his cologne and the slow rhythm of her heartbeat against her ribs. When evening came, she changed into the dress left for her, black silk, modest but sharp. Maria appeared again, silent this time, and led her through hallways lined with oil portraits whose eyes seemed to follow. As they reached the study, Sophia caught a fragment of Dante's voice through the door. Italian. Fast. Controlled. Then a phrase that made her stomach tighten. If she runs? Ending quietly. The door opened. Dante smiled as if nothing had been said. Ready to translate, Miss James? The villa's main hall shimmered like a dream built on silence, crystal chandeliers. A long table, silver, and shadows. Every man who entered wore a suit heavy with money or blood. Sophia stood behind Dante's right shoulder, pretending she belonged. In a way, she did now. A ghost between worlds, fluent in both languages of fear and formality. The guests arrived one by one, their laughter too polished to trust. At the far end, Vittorio Ferrero, Dante's rival in everything but age, removed his gloves slowly, savoring the attention. Richie, he said, his voice smooth as syrup, your translator looks different from the usual. Dante didn't flinch. That's why she's still here. The servers poured wine, conversation weaving like smoke. Ferrero switched to Italian mid-sentence, testing her. Sophia translated each word calmly, her tone even, precise. When the negotiations began, the air thinned. It wasn't about art or property. It was about power disguised as business. Each sentence was a knife wrapped in protocol. Ferrero leaned back. You always chase loyalty, Dante, but loyalty is fragile when fear runs your house. Sophia hesitated. That wasn't what he'd said, not exactly. His real words carried something sharper. Loyalty dies fastest under men who pretend mercy. She felt Dante's gaze flicker her way. He caught the hesitation. You may translate, Miss James, he said softly. Her throat tightened. He said fear doesn't keep loyalty alive forever. Dante's eyes narrowed slightly, not anger, assessment. True, he said, raising his glass. But neither does arrogance. The room shifted, tension like static. Ferrero smiled thinly. Ah, so your interpreter edits. Sophia looked directly at him. Only when men lie. Laughter broke out, low, uneasy. Dante's hand tapped once against the table. A silent warning that also sounded like approval. The meeting dragged on. Numbers exchanged. Agreements whispered. Subtext everywhere. Then Ferrero slipped a phrase muttered too softly in dialect, meant to pass her ears unnoticed. End his piece tonight. Her spine went rigid. She didn't translate that one. Instead, she leaned toward Dante and murmured, He's not leaving this room peacefully. He didn't react at first. Then his glass lowered, his voice turning to iron. Sign the paper, Vittorio, he said in Italian. Before you forget how to use your hands. Ferrero's eyes flinched. He laughed again, but the sound rang hollow. he signed. Sophia realized her pulse hadn't slowed since the moment she walked in. As soon as the papers changed hands, the guests dispersed, murmuring to guards, lighting cigarettes with shaking fingers. She stood still, waiting for permission to breathe. Dante rose. "Everyone leaves with something," he said. She turned. "And me?" He met her gaze. "You stay." Her voice steadied. "Until when?" He stepped closer, low enough for only her to hear. "Until I figure out whether you saved me or used me." Her mouth opened, but no sound came. "Either way," he continued, "you just became part of this house." The last of the guests disappeared into the night. Guards closed the doors. Only the two of them remained, framed by chandeliers flickering over a room full of half-empty glasses. She took a breath. "You said earlier you don't buy people." "I don't," he replied. "But I reward the ones who make me listen." His tone softened, almost human. "Rest tonight, Sophia. Tomorrow you'll translate for someone far more dangerous." She frowned. "More dangerous than you?" Dante's smile was slow, deliberate. "Family." Morning crept into the villa like smoke, slow, uncertain, and soft enough to disguise danger. Sophia stood by the balcony barefoot, watching the mist roll across the vineyards. For the first time, the house felt quieter, not safer, just tired. The events of the night still pulsed behind her eyes. Ferrero's retreat, Dante's calm mask, the look in his eyes that wasn't victory, but something heavier. She didn't sleep. She couldn't. The knock came just before sunrise. Maria stepped in, holding a folded note. "From him," she said quietly. Sophia hesitated before opening it. "Breakfast. No guards, no threats, just talk." The handwriting was elegant, deliberate. When she entered the dining hall, Dante was already seated. No suit this time, just a black shirt, sleeves rolled, no ring on his hand. He looked less like a boss, more like a man remembering what that used to mean. "Sit," he said softly. She did. The table between them was empty except for coffee and a single envelope. He studied her. "You could have let Ferrero speak freely. You didn't. Why? Because he would have gotten you killed. And that matters to you?" "It mattered in the moment," she said. "That's all I had time to decide." He nodded once. "That's honesty. I don't hear much of it in this house." "You build a house like this," she said. "You don't leave much room for truth." Something flickered behind his eyes, a brief, tired amusement. "You think I'm the villain in your story, don't you?" "I think you're the reason it exists," she said. He leaned back, letting the silence stretch. Then, finally, "You're free." She blinked. "What?" He pushed the envelope toward her. "Passport, cash, new name, Florence train station. You'll have 1 hour before someone notices you're gone." She didn't move. "Why now?" "Because I realized last night," he said quietly, "that control isn't loyalty, and fear isn't respect." Sophia felt her breath tremble. "You're letting me go because I didn't lie to you." "No," he said, "because for a moment, when you spoke for me, I believed you." The words hung there, not soft, not kind, just true. She stood slowly, the envelope cool in her hands. Maria appeared by the doorway, pretending not to listen, but clearly relieved. Sophia hesitated. "What happens to you after I leave?" Dante smiled faintly. "The same thing that happens to all men who mistake power for peace." "And what's that?" "They end up alone." She nodded, unable to find words. The guards didn't stop her this time. The gates opened just as the sun cut through the fog, scattering gold across the stone path. At the train station, she sat with the ticket between her fingers, watching strangers pass by, free, unbothered, real. Her phone buzzed once, unknown number, a message. "The next time you answer in Italian, make sure it's for yourself." She smiled, small, tired, but real. As the train pulled away, Florence unfolding in the distance, Sophia closed her eyes and breathed for the first time without fear. She thought about the girl who once poured wine in silence, about the man who taught her that mercy could live inside monsters, and about how power, in the end, belonged to the one who could walk away. He told them not to let me leave.